So, Professor Jung, so you began to see, in a sense, your typologies led to a sort of a theory of a psychology of opposites, that the conscious would reveal one side of a type and the unconscious would be the other side.
Yeah.
And that this would be a very important way then of helping you to analyze and understand the individual.
From a practical point of view, quite important. Well, the point I wanted to elucidate is, in analyzing a patient, you make a typical experience. Namely, there is a sort of typical way in which the integration of consciousness takes place. Namely, the average way is that through the analysis of trees, for instance, you become acquainted with the contents of their cultures. I always do this. To begin with, all personal material. Subjective questions of the individual, difficulties in adapting to environmental conditions, and so on. Now, it is a regular observation that when you talk to an individual, and the individual is to insight into its inner preoccupation, features, emotions, in other words, hands over his personal complexes, then you get slowly into the situation of a sort of authority. You become a point of reference. You are in possession of all the important items in a person's development. I remember, for instance, Anna is a very well-known American politician. And he told me, any amount of the secrets of his trade. And suddenly he jumped up and said, "Thank God, what have I done? You got $1 million. Say what I have to now." I said, "Well, I'm not interested. You can sleep in peace. I cannot betray you. I forget it within a fortnight." Now, you see, that shows that the things people hand out are not merely in different forms. When it comes to something important, emotionally important, then they hand out themselves. They hand out a big emotional value, as if they were handing over a large sum, as if they were trusting you with the administration of their estate, and they're tiring your hand. Often I hear things that could mean in those people, actually, if it had been known. Or it would give me, if I should have any blackmailing tendencies, unlimited power to the blackmailing. Now, you see, that creates an emotional relationship to the enemy. And that is what I call the platform, which is a central problem of analytic psychology. It is just so as if these people had handed out their whole existence. That can have very peculiar effects upon the individual. Either they hate you for it or they love you for it, but you are not indifferent to them. And there is then a sort of emotional relation between the patient and the doctor. When you hand out such material, these contents are associated with all the important persons in the life of a patient. Now, the most important persons are usually father and mother. That comes up from childhood. The first troubles are with the parent. So, in handing over your infantile memories about the father or about the mother, you hand over also the image of father and mother. Then it is just as if the doctor had taken the place of the father, even of the mother. I had quite a number of male patients that called me Mother Yo, because they handed over the mother to me. Yeah, she was very enough. But you see, that's quite irrespective of the personality of the animal. If you simply disregarded, he functions as if you were the mother, or he functions as if you were the father, the central authority. Now that is what one calls transmitted of projection. Now it doesn't exactly call it projection, he calls it transference. That is an allusion to the old superstitious idea of handing over the transferring a disease upon an animal, or handing over the sin upon a scapegoat, and scapegoat takes it out into the desert to make it disappear. So they hand over themselves in the hope that I can swallow that stuff and digest it for a day. And so I am in the comparative and have an eye authority. Naturally, I'm also persecuted by the corresponding resistances, all the manifold emotional reactions they have had against their Now, that is the stuff you have to work through in analyzing the situation. Because a patient in such a position is not free. It's totally dependent upon the doctor, like a patient with an open abdomen on the operating table. In the eyes of the surgery, got better or worse. So the thing must be finished. And so we have to work through that condition in the hope that we arrive in a situation where the patient is able to see that I am not the father or not the mother, that I am an ordinary human being. Now, everybody naturally should assume that such a thing would be possible, that a patient could arrive at such an insight when he is not a complete evil, that I am just a doctor, and that emotional figure of their fantasies. But that is very often not the case. I had a case that was an intelligent young woman. She was a student of philosophy, very good mind, where what you could expect easily that she would see that I am not parental authority. But she was actually unable to get out of this delusion. And in such a case, one always has recourse to the dreams. It's just as if one would ask the unconscious, now what do you say to such a condition? You see, she says, we are unconscious, of course, I know you are not my father, but I just feel like that. It is like that. I depend upon you. And I say, now you see what the unconscious says. Now the unconscious produces dreams in which I really assume a very curious role. She was the little infant. She was sitting on my knees. I held her in my arms. I was a very tender father to the little girl, And the last dream of that series was, I cannot tell you all the dreams, was that it was out in nature. I stood in a field of wheat, field of wheat that was ripe for harvest. I was a child, and I held her in my arm like a baby. And the wind was blowing over that field of wheat. Now, when the wind is blowing over wheat field, these waves, the wind fair, and with these waves, I swayed like that, and putting her as if it were to sleep, And she felt as being in the arms of the Godhead. So now the harvest is ripe. And I must tell her, And I told her, you see, what you want and what you project into me, because you are not conscious of it, is you have the idea of a deity you don't possess. Therefore, you see it in me. That clicked. Because, she had a rather intense religious education. Of course, it all vanished later on. And something disappeared from her world. Her world became merely personal. And that religious conception of the world was non-existent apparently. And so she suddenly became aware of an entirely image that comes fresh from the archetype. She had not the idea of a Christian God or of an Old Testament Yahweh. It was a heathenish God. You see, a God of nature, of vegetation. He was the wind himself. He is the spirit of the wind, the spirit of the wind. And she was in the arms of that human. That is the living experience of an archetype. Now, that made a tremendous impression upon that girl. And instantly, it clicked. She saw what she really was missing, that missing value, that was in the form of a projection in myself and made myself indispensable to her.
Yes.
Now, that is a luminous experience, you see. And that is the thing that people are looking for. An archetypal experience that gives them an incorruptible value. You see, they depend upon other conditions. They depend upon their desires, their ambitions. Depend upon other people. Because they have no value in themselves. They have nothing in themselves. They are only rational. And they are not in the possession of a treasure that would make them independent. But when that girl can hold that experience, then she doesn't depend anymore. She cannot depend anymore because that value is in herself. And that is a sort of liberation. And that is, of course, makes her complete, In as much as she can realize such a luminous experience, she is able to continue her path, her way, her individuation. The acorn can become an oak and not a donkey. Nature will take her course. She will become that which she is from the beginning. Now, see such cases, quite a number of such cases. That, of course, has given me a motive to study the archetype.